Welcome to the show. Let us meet our panel. He is a law professor, Nixon speechwriter, and game show host. From Win Ben Stein's Money, Ben Stein is here. Ben Stein, how are you? She is a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian, and her new book is Wait Till Next Year, a memoir. Doris Kearns Goodwin. Hello, young lady. Great pleasure to meet you. She starred on Baywatch and just completed Hawaii's Ironman triathlon in real life. Alexandra Paul. Yeah. Hello, beautiful. Good to see you again. Thank you for coming. And star of stage, screen, and Rocky Horror Picture Show, his new series is Over the Top right here on ABC. Tim Curry. How are you? All right. Well, now the big story, as I mentioned in the monologue, is China. And as we speak, the two remaining leaders of the superpowers are meeting in Washington. One is representing China. The other is Zheng Jimin. I'm kidding, of course, because Bill Clinton represents many Asian countries. But China is mostly criticized for their human rights policies. But one thing they have done consistently over the last 20 years is limit population control very strictly. Since the late 70s, as you know, it has been the law in China, an enforced law. You can only have one child. And the same people who complain about human rights problems are the ones who say, well, the planet is running out of resources. And it is.
That's not true. I mean, that's just a myth.
It's not true the planet is running out of resources?
It's not true. I mean, it's been being said for hundreds of years that we're about to run out of resources. More keep being discovered. There's now a greater supply of oil than there was thought to be 30, 40, 50 years ago.
What about air?
No, there's no, are you kidding? Do you really think?
I'm not kidding.
There's
a hole in the ozone.
That is ridiculous. I can't believe you're saying that there's not enough resources.
Wait a second. Do you really think there is a scientific consensus that we're running out of air, Bill?
No, clean air. Clean air.
Yeah, right.
We're running out of clean air.
I agree that is the Hollywood politically correct vision.
The Hollywood vision.
But in fact...
Oh, it's the Hollywood
also, of like many scientists all around the world.
The EPA says we have more clean air days in most of the cities in the U.S. than we did 20 years ago. So this is all a myth, and the real purpose of it is to control...
People like you are going to make us all die.
I think wait a second.
Listen to her for 1 second. She knows more about this than I do.
Wait, do you think you're going to die because of me? You really have some problems if you think I'm going to make you die.
Yes, I do. I do.
You think I'm going to make you die?
Just because the air was cleaner than it is 20 years ago doesn't mean that it's clean enough. When we live in a city where there's smog alerts regularly, that's not clean enough.
It should be cleaner. The question is, are we running out of resources? Every year they seem to find more and more oil, more and more natural gas.
Oil is what is making the air kill us.
Well, then what? Well, then, Bill, what?
It's not enough. Even though they're finding more oil.
Have you seen those pictures from Asia?
Then, Bill, what is the resource we're running out of?
We're running out of all resources because there's too many.
I'd say rainforest, wood.
Wait a second. Wait a minute. That's not true. There's more harvestable wood in this country and in most of the world than there was 30 years ago.
Hold on, just because it's...
Remember Reagan said that pollution comes from trees?
Wait a second.
Why do you think wood doesn't mean it's harvestable?
Wait a second. The fact that Reagan said it doesn't mean it was wrong.
Oh, well.
I mean, Reagan said a hell of a lot where things were ripe and were wrong.
But listen,
Reagan was hardly a loser as a president.
No, but Reagan said some silly things. And Nixon was a loser, and you worked for him. And I think you think if you say things over and over again, it'll come true.
So the idea is, so Doris. So the idea is, because I worked for Nixon, the fact that all the statistics that show we have more harvestable timber, more oil, more coal, more gas, then they're all wrong because I worked for Nixon.
But you're just citing statistics.
We could cite other ones.
And he thinks I'm going to kill him.
Changing the subject.
He's worse than a politician.
Paranoid aura here.
Can I say something about wood? Just because it exists doesn't mean it's harvestable. Otherwise, your son isn't going to have any woods to play in if we cut down all the wood.
I agree. There has to be some management of the forest. But the idea that we're running out of it is just not true.
But you're mentioning all the things that are ruining the environment. We have more oil, we have more wood, we have more coal.
Then what are we running out of?
We're running out of
things we need to live.
Can I say something? We're running out of space.
Those things are the things that wreck the air.
Wait a second.
Coal wrecks the air. Oil wrecks the air.
What are we running out of?
Air, water, food.
If we have so much oil, why do we go to war over it?
Yeah.
Why? Why would we over some little country?
Wait a second. The question wasn't whether or not there was any. It was who controlled it. I don't question it would be bad
so much oil being
if Sodom.
Who's
I don't question it would be bad if Sodom had control of it, but there is an awful lot of it. And the idea that we're running out of air.
No, wait,
I mean, do you seriously think you're going to run out of air?
I do. I think there's a hole in the ozone layer. I think there's global warming. I think the ice caps are melting. And when I die, I'm blaming you. We have to take a break.
Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher, brought to you by GM Goodwin Service.
About the environment. Let's stop, because you know what? You never change anybody's mind about that. But what I was getting at was that human rights and population control, and I applaud China for this one thing, that they have been able to stop population control, because that is the greatest threat.
You know, it's awesome. You know what's impossible? Wait. You got to feel some awesomeness for this country that was able to instill something in billions of people that were willing to stop having sex, or at least stop having a kid, and produce fewer. Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. Right. But nonetheless, we couldn't do that in this country. I think it's almost impossible to imagine you could put such an edict on us. Well, look, if Joe Kennedy, old Joe Kennedy, had been told he only had one kid, we would never have President Kennedy, Teddy Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy.
Well,
maybe we would have been better off.
We're also a different country. They came from a communist. They came from a communist background where the greater good was, you know, the social good was greater than the individual good.
But there's got to be some middle ground.
You're saying you applaud them for interfering in the most basic decisions of human beings?
For the greater good of the country.
No, that's nonsense. That is nonsense.
They avoided a famine.
That's nonsense. You're talking about repressing the most basic love instinct between human beings to serve the state. You're talking about the most overwhelming state control of human life. Look, we don't have state control of that in the U.S., and we're extremely well-fed, me in particular. Why is it that the countries that don't have population control seem to eat much better than the ones that do?
Well, are you crazy? What do you mean?
No, I'm not crazy. The Western European,
like India, they eat really well. They pick bits of undigested matter out of cow dung. That's really eating well.
India is a vastly more prosperous country than China. Are you out of your mind?
You know, China also has a lot more people in it than India.
Tim, your name is Curry. What do you think about India?
About India? Well, you know, it's good to be a national dish. It does seem to me that people are starving in India.
Yeah, right.
Mother
Teresa would be out of a job if they were all eating so well in
people are starving in many countries, but the free societies are better fed than the repressed societies. The countries that repress people, repress the market, repress people's individuality.
But what
the bottom line is that China was faced with a very unique problem.
Yes.
Its population was so huge, they realized they wouldn't be able to feed it. They had to do something quickly. They put out an edict in the late 70s that said that you could only have one child. If you had more than one, you'd have not free schooling for that child, not free medical care, etc.
No,
the government did not kill them.
Of course they killed them.
It's the social structure of China, which is a patriarchy.
It's extremely well documented that they killed them.
And not only that, you can just run over and keep talking.
They faced a...
Can you please shut him up?
I will. Because what really hurts is that Mr. Nixon's speechwriter was out argued by a chick from Baywatch. We have to take a break, but I'll come right back. All right, first of all, Ben, I apologize. That was a cheap shot, and I went to commercial. That's the cheapest thing a talk show host can do, is get his shot in and go to commercial. But I had to, or else they would have taken me off the air. But I was...
Well, I just want to say this one thing. It's very interesting that the free societies don't have famines. The countries that have central planning and agriculture and repression do have famines. The problem in China wasn't excess population. There haven't been giant famines in India.
Oh, there haven't been giant famines.
No, there haven't been, Doris. I don't
So
know.
it doesn't count.
It kind of surprises me that you're
I'm
a
kind of
historian.
surprised. When Lyndon Johnson was president, he had to send food to India because they were in the middle of a huge famine.
Then there wasn't a famine.
Oh,
it was
because
a
he
free
helped the famine.
society, and they bought it from us. And they bought it from us. The problem in China wasn't excess population. It's central planning. It doesn't let them grow enough food. There's enough food grown in Australia, a country of about 20 million.
They have 1.2 billion people, and you're saying the problem is
Australia produces enough
the
wheat to
Democrats,
food them.
basically.
No, not the Democrats.
Liberal at the 60s. Didn't the 1960s cause the problem? The liberals, the Democrats.
No, I like the 60s.
You're not so bad.
Let's talk about
Well, it's true that the government causes mismanagement of food and et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is 1.2 billion people, each of them having two or three babies.
The state of Nebraska by themselves could feed that country.
Nebraska's great because it's not overpopulated. That's why that's a great state.
But they have freedom.
Have you been on the freeway today?
It's interesting. They don't.
This place sucks because there's too many people.
But that's not population control in Nebraska. It's interesting that you don't see the basic virtue of the free society.
Well, I don't think we're arguing that. I mean, we appreciate being in a free country.
The repression of people in terms of how many children.
You know what she said is right before. It would be great if they didn't have to do this, and hopefully in the next generation. Wait a minute. In the next generation, maybe they won't have to, and that's what China's working toward. They had a terrible problem. They had to do something about it. There were not enough resources in their country to feed their people adequately, to have a decent living standard. So they decided we'll have fewer kids and share more.
You know, there was
you just say something is wrong.
China has one of the biggest reserves of dollars of any country in the world.
You know all this secret information. We should put you on another planet.
It's not just about money.
Doris, it's not secret. Doris, it's not a secret. It's an
What is so bad about a society
saying... Why can't they just buy the wheat and allow, with all the money they make, selling us low-cost electronics, and let the people have a free choice?
It's not about money.
Families.
A population of 1.2 billion just...
Hopefully, maybe not.
A population of 1.2 billion growing only 1% is adding 100 million people a year.
Right.
If that population
grows... I think that's 10%, not 1%.
All right. What is it?
It's 12 million.
Don't
12 million people.
Don't let him get to you. Keep going.
I don't know. I can't do math on it. But the bottom line is 1.2 billion.
There have been an awful lot of bottom lines. How many bottom lines are we going to have?
There's a lot of bottom lines in this situation.
Why is it so bad for a society to say, hey, can't we sacrifice a little? Aren't we the most
Because you're talking about sacrificing human life.
But they're allowed one child. How come it's selfish to smoke in a restaurant, but you can have 15 kids?
Doesn't the quality of life matter?
Because one is about hurting other people's life, and the other is about a basic decision.
15 kids isn't hurting my life.
No, it isn't.
Down the road, it really is.
How many kids do you have?
Oh, please.
I have one. I wish I had 15.
Oh.
Well.
You knew that 15 wouldn't be good for anybody.
Well, how many?
So Ben, do you think it's unlimited, the amount of children this planet can support? Do you think it's unlimited?
We're nowhere near the limit.
So when we get to the limit,
we're nowhere near the limit.
The population has doubled in my lifetime.
What is the limit?
And people are better fed than ever.
Okay, you tell me what the limit is.
Yeah, the rich people are better fed.
We have 6 billion people. What's the limit?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know, but I know that the more people
when we get there, because we'll be dead.
You know what? The limit has been reached.
No, the more people there are, people are better and better fed. I mean, it is a... It's funny
you would say that because you're in America.
Yeah, you're not in Calcutta. You're not in Rio de Janeiro. You're not in these cities.
People are eating better, generally speaking, around the world, especially in Asia. Especially in Asia.
But you know, it's not only about eating. It's also quality of life. I mean, we all know that.
Well, how about quality of life? How about the state coming in and saying you can't have children, and if you do, we're going to take them away from you and let them die of exposure?
That is not the truth. That's not the truth, isn't it? That is not what happened in China, and you are exaggerating.
But weren't the Chinese always very pragmatic about their birth rate anyway? I mean, when you said about it being a patriarchy, I mean, they were abandoning girl children on mountains long before this edict.
Well, we don't consider that a good thing.
That's the only way I'll agree with you. It wouldn't have been fun being a girl kid in this last generation because nobody wanted a girl.
Yeah, the most anti-woman state in history. It amazes me that it gets so much applause.
It isn't getting applause. It's people that are upset with you just having this enormous ability to say things as if they were necessarily true.
Well, Doris, Doris, the things I'm saying are extremely well known. You could find them in the statistical abstract, and they've reported.
You know, I was once considered an historian. I'm supposed to know a few things.
I don't think you're a historian of China. I don't think you're a historian of China or of agriculture.
Are you?
Eminent. Well, I know a lot of facts. I read facts and statistics. Doris, wait a second. An ad hominem attack on me because I work for Nixon is a joke. There are facts out there. It shocks me that you don't argue from the facts.
It is shocking indeed.
Okay. I have to take a break. We'll come back.